I am one of the co-founders of Bahati Books, which is an ebook publishing company that publishes African literature from across the continent and in the diaspora. I'm also a King's College London alumni, and our business, I'm proud to say, which I co-founded with my co-founder called Kuda Kwashe, is also King's College London supported. So we are based just across the road in Hodgkins Building, and we are an Incubate supported program. So when people, even today, people still call Africa a country, whilst it's a continent of over 1 billion people, 54 countries, diverse cultures. And the reason for this is because of narratives. So the dominant narratives in the news, in books, in media about Africa is one that's framed by negative perceptions. So our core mission when we started Bahati Books as a publishing company is we want to change the cultural shift, we want to inspire a cultural shift to change how people see Africa. And we want to change that through novels, through books, through publishing amazing contemporary literature written by Africans from across the continent and in the diaspora, as well as publishing classic literature, so by people the likes of Chinua Achebe, but also newer talent. And so we started Bahati Books with that mission. To date, we have signed on about 18 authors from countries in Africa as diverse as Botswana, in Southern Africa, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Nigeria. And one of the things that we want to use Bahati Books as is just this publishing platform online to just show people, you know, Africa has romance novels, it has sci-fi thrillers, it has books on different types of fiction and also biographical fiction. You know, in Africa, you're also likely, you know, there's negative things, but you're also likely to find skyscrapers in Nairobi. Kenya is home to one of the fastest growing kind of silicon savannas, so really entrepreneurial people who are starting the ventures.
What is exactly Roomor? So we're an online marketing platform designed to generate quality leads for the real estate agencies. So how the platform works, it works with a mobile app which understands people's preferences and a strong algorithm that understands market preferences, putting that data together and telling you and the agent how likely you are to rent or to buy a place.
At the beginning, we didn't even have an office. Actually, our first office was a pub just around the corner in Borough High Street. And after that, thanks to King's, we won a competition at King's, we got a little bit of money, and we got office space here, and so we could transition and making Roomor are actually like a full-time job. Well, there are a lot of stories about the startup life. People think it's a lot of fun, that's true, but it's also a lot of hard work. And it's different from university because nobody's checking on you, so you have to self-motivate yourself, otherwise you're not getting work done.
Well, we've been through a lot. It's completely, every day you're learning new things, every day you're iterating, you're changing, everything changes from one week to another, but you have to realize that as soon as you're making progress each week, you actually realize that you're making progress. And first of all, the team. Andrea told you how we met, through a common friend, say I have a startup idea, let's build it. We thought it was really bad. All right, let's build another thing. But we felt that we really clicked because we have different complementary skills. He comes from a technical background. He did his master's here in computer science. I did my master's in business management. We click, we get along together very fine. We can work. That's really important because you're going to be working with this person every day for long, long hours. So you have to be able to get along with that person. So that's the foundation of any startup.
One thing I would like to say is like, at the beginning, when you start a startup, you're really excited and you're focused on building the business when you don't even have a product, right? So I remember at the beginning, we went to events for like 2 weeks. We didn't get any work done. Don't do that mistake. Actually build the product first and then start your business. Start thinking about the business. Then you really have to believe in your idea. People are going to tell you all the time that your idea is wrong. Maybe there is nothing new about it. They kept comparing us to Spare Room, even though it was a completely different product. So you have to have the strength to believe in your idea. But at the same time, you have to keep an open mind and to be flexible because you're also going to meet people, really smart people that have that can give you like constructive criticism, and you have to be able to integrate that into the original idea. As you said, like our business changed a lot since the beginning, so I think that's really important.
So yeah, we have 10 restaurants now, and you know, I didn't start off in Mexican food. I started. I'm Norwegian and American. Grew up in, well, left Norway when I was about 5. Grew up in Chicago then, and Chicago is home to the second largest population of Mexicans in the United States. So to grow up in Chicago and not like Mexican food, you're setting yourself up for starvation. So, so I didn't want to starve. so I started to eat tacos. And so I fell in love with the food there, and worked, as I'm sure everyone has done, the odd job in the restaurant and bar industry, paying bills, stuff like that. And then my first job out of school was with McKinsey & Company. I worked as an analyst in their Chicago office. Then I transferred to their Oslo, Norway office. Did some nonprofit work, came down to London and joined Skype in its very early days. We were about 30 people in a small office on Lexington Street in Soho, and that was an absolute rocket ship. That company went from absolutely nothing from 2003 or 4 when I joined to an incredible reach across the world. And then left Skype, to start a chain of burrito restaurants, because why not? I put in some money, Dan put in some money, we let some friends in on it. And then we had 145,000 altogether, and then sent the business plan out to 15 banks. I got 15 rejection letters. The 16th bank said yes. The funny thing, the yes came from HSBC, and 4 of the previous 15 rejections were from different branch managers at HSBC. So this whole it's the bank's policy, bullshit. What you have to do is you have to just network your way to the right person and find the right person. And we found the right bank manager, and suddenly he thought, this is excellent, I'll fund this. He matched us with 145,000. We got 290,000 together and got the first site open. So we've always aimed high from the get-go, and I think part of that came from our experience at Skype, because that was an absolute rocket ship. And so right from the early days, the pitch was always, we are going to create a global billion-pound brand, and we still believe that to this day. And that's how we've engineered the entire company. For example, we've trademarked Chilango in 30 markets throughout the world. We bought up all the URLs. We're working on our first international deals now. So that ethos and that self-belief was always there. And then that really helped us with fundraising, combined with the second point of meet absolutely everyone and don't judge a book by its cover. I know these things are cliches, but they're cliches for a reason, because they're the truth. They mean something. And I can't tell you how many times I met a person and I resisted the temptation to stop the meeting earlier, to just not follow up after the meeting based on my kind of vibe of the meeting. I can't tell you how many times I proved myself wrong when out of the blue, a person who I didn't think was going to invest money suddenly said, yeah, I'd like to invest. How much? 250,000. I was like, huh? And that happened. That has happened so many times that you just have to meet everyone. Pitch the business. You need to become a professional salesman as an entrepreneur. You're always selling. The next point is, I've always said the world's best brands can sum themselves up in a single word. So Nike, for me, is about competition. Disney is about happiness. Apple's about simplicity. We took forever to come up with this, but we finally distilled Chilango's single brand word down to vibrancy. So Chilango's all about dreaming big, enjoying life to the fullest, achieving extraordinary things, just squeezing every last drop you can get out of your existence, and as a result, shining as brightly as possible, which should then, as a sun, brighten up the days of others. And that may sound like a simple thing, but it is if you just leave it there, but we didn't. So we took that and we said, how do we create alignment around this? How do we have this permeate every single facet of the company and the organization? And we did that by making vibrancy kind of the guiding force behind 3 things: our food, our people, and our place. Food, people, place. So we call that Chilango Holy Trinity. All 3 are important, but only one can be God, and the God is food. So it wasn't all rosy and glory. So we got the first 2 Chilangos open, Upper Street and Fleet Street. Upper Street 2007, Fleet Street 2008. And then we did so well with it that we thought, we can't do any wrong. We just put a Chilango where there's lots of people, we make lots of money, happy days. Yeah, woo. Well, I ended up raising £3 million then, and I lost all 3 million of it, all of it, every last penny. Had to recapitalize the business. It was an absolute mess. There was loan notes in the business and scary default interest rates, and it was just, honestly, it was just a mess. The whole cap table and everything just got really ugly. And it's because I picked the wrong sites. And so the business almost was on the brink of insolvency. And then we negotiated with our existing investors, because new investors wouldn't touch it. They were like, this is going under. And I remember I remember this moment thinking, oh, shit, I can't believe, like, all this work, I got so close. And this is happening now. And somehow, like, I think the cockpit floor of it scraped on the ground, and somehow the plane came back up. We negotiated a deal with our existing investors to provide enough capital to get the business back on track and dispose of these 2 sites at the same time. And we did, and everything's all happy again now. And then after we did that, I thought to myself, gosh, I never want to go through that experience again. And so I started to, again, relentlessly network, and any time I met somebody who spoke in a way that I felt philosophically aligned to, I thought to myself, they should invest in our business. And so I would invite them to a Chilango for lunch, hear them talk. Again, that would reinforce kind of what I thought to begin with, and I would say, right at the end of the meal, I think you should invest in Chilango. Can I send you some information? And that worked. And so these are the investors that I've assembled over the years, and all of this was meant to insulate ourselves from making those same stupid mistakes that we shouldn't have made, but we made and we learned from. So surround yourself with gray hair, because it really helps.
The idea came from sitting in a coffee shop quite close to Leicester Square. It wasn't a Chilango because he wasn't there at that time. But I met with a couple of cab drivers, and we were trying to make taxi drivers' lives a lot more efficient, because lots of taxi drivers drive around and they just couldn't find the jobs. Yet people wanted taxis as well. And this is back in 2009, and the iOS had only come out in 2007. So the people I used to get in my taxi that I used to talk to wasn't talking to me anymore. It wasn't because I was, I didn't know anything about politics or football or everything else that taxi drivers are the brains of Britain on. It's just that they was busy on their mobile phones, which give us the nucleus of an idea called Taxi Light. So originally, Gary, you'll see his picture as well, and Terry, we had an idea of a web-based platform that people could actually go onto, which was Taxi Light, and put in a destination and they didn't want to pay that much for. For instance, if anyone in the room lived in Chiswick, they don't want to pay the £40, £50 in a taxi. They can put £20, and if a driver lived in Richmond, he'd take that job. That was the sort of idea what we tried to develop. Our 2 engineers at the time wasn't as ambitious as us, so we decided to dump them and look for investment. Plus, we tried to find like-minded people to help us on our route. As you can see, those taxis today, which I'm pretty proud of when you consider just sitting in that coffee shop thinking to myself, wow, where am I going to get the next pound note from? Gary, Terry, and myself tried to raise some money. I applied to go on Dragon's Den. And I only wanted £60,000 from the girl with the shoulder pads. And actually there was a tweet out today by Deborah Meaden, and Deborah Meaden said that she uses Hailo, which is really quite nice as well. My wife hates her because she keeps looking at her nails, like judging these entrepreneurs. But anyway, we didn't even get on the show. So, but we were still looking for that investment. And Gary, who he picked up someone in his cab again, who owned Boysdale's. Boysdale's is a jazz club over in Victoria, but there's a place over now in Cabot Square over Canary Wharf. That wasn't even built then. But he had the confidence in investing in us. And he wanted to give us £100,000. Now, if you don't mind me swearing, we nearly shit ourselves, because what are 3 cab drivers going to do with £100,000 apart from, go down a pub and have a drink? But we knew we was on this right course. We had 1,000 drivers registered to Hailo, Taxi Light. and we needed this sort of expertise in the field, which is where we met our fellow co-founders. We're now at Somerset House, which is a great place to visit at any time. You can skate if you want to. I don't anymore. Or in the summer, you can come and just have a nice cup of tea. But in the building, just to the right, we have about 80 staff, which makes Hailo tick. Talking about, raising money and getting investment, the early days, and Eric touched on it as well, you get people say, no, obviously Deborah Meaden and a friend with the big shoulder pads, no. Obviously, when you're successful, everyone wants to, jump in. So the guys that we initially got in from the beginning, there's a Skype link there with Nicholas Zenström. I don't know if Eric had met the guy, but when I met him and he said, I really love it, and this guy built Skype, sold it, bought it back, sold it again, and when I met him in Downing Street, he said, Mr. Hailo. I went, hey, Eric, how you doing? And he knows me, and he don't call me Mr. Hailo, he calls me Russ. But he was one of the seed investors, and when you get the people that you look up there now, the USV, Union Square Ventures behind Twitter, Wellington Partners behind Spotify, Axel and Sir Richard, which I haven't been to his island yet, so I'm still open for the invitation if he sees this. They bunged in roughly, up to this date, around about $120 million in an idea that 3 cab drivers sitting in a Pret-a-Manger near Leicester Square back in the day, making our dreams come true. And as you can see, actually some of these figures are out of date because today in London we've done over 14 million jobs and we've got almost 1 million passengers. And there's a Hailo job roughly every 3 seconds. There goes another one. You'll get it in a minute. What's happened? I've just turned that off. Let's go there. So data, we're data rich, so we can see every single journey. In fact, lots of, especially now we're going to zero emission taxis, lots of companies want our data because we trace every single job. And that's just a snapshot of London on a normal day with the availability of a taxi. There is, as I said, almost 16,000 cabs in London with an average pickup time of 3 minutes. No one in London delivers quicker than Hailo. Anybody. Simple as that. Our future is, we learned our lessons in business, like everybody. We almost touched down and crashed at one point where we launched in America and we wasn't really that ready and we sort of thought, well, we're the business. So we tried to pull the reins in a little bit and focus on London and the rest of Europe, which we're actively, moving towards now. The founders are still together. Well, especially me and Gary and Terry, plus Ron, and I talk to Jay every now and again when he's not flying drones, and Casper's available to speak to when we need to. But that's the journey of Hailo. I still haven't found out why I haven't been knighted yet, but I'm sure it'll be in the post. I'm going to go straight there, sod the MBE, just, boom. But no, it's been born in London, bred in London. It's raised the most money for an English European startup, per se. No one's ever hit that. And we're still, living the dream of, obviously, I'll never forget that, just to switch back why I'm here tonight, of being in a position where some of you guys are going to be. Don't ever say no. Share it with your friends. Make sure the people that's near you sort of really, really love you and look after you. And make sure your friends stay very, very close. And I think you'll be a success.
So I'm here to tell you how to get money. Not necessarily for a startup, but for a business that's a little further forward than a startup. I've been an investor for probably about 25 years. And it is ridiculous for anybody to tell you that there are a set of rules that can be given to you that will make an investor invest in your product or service. It can't be done. I can give you what my one man's opinion is, and I can give you perhaps a view of the network I operate, what their opinion is about what we're looking for in terms of investing in businesses today. The pursuit of making money purely for money's sake used to be great in the 1980s. Everybody loved it. It was what we all wanted to do. Now, Nobody likes it. They're not into it. When we take a look at what motivates investors today, it should be the things that motivate consumers, potential customers. And these things have a greater social responsibility than I've ever seen, certainly in a 26-year career. And if you were to say to me years ago that you have to have a social impact element in the business that you're starting for it to be truly successful, to attract the millennials, the 18 to 35-year-olds, I would have said, you've got to be kidding. That doesn't have a place. You make a fortune, then you do something with it philanthropic, and, let that be that. The idea that on the journey of wealth creation, on the journey of entrepreneurship, you have to think about social impact was ridiculous. Today it isn't. What I look for, and to give you some perspective, I've probably invested in about 100 businesses. I've probably engaged in around 60 startups. I can tell you I've learned more from failure than I ever did success. Success taught me to be a bit obnoxious. Failure, I actually stopped and thought, wait a minute, what went wrong? As opposed to, I need another car, which certainly success entitled me to do from time to time. So, if someone comes to talk to me about their business, the obvious thing is, what are they like as people? An angel investor, apart from being a complete misnomer, they shouldn't be called angel investors. There is nothing angelic about them. They are demons. We want to know how you're going to invest our money, how secure is it in terms of your business plan, and how much money you're going to make us. And now, just to be really annoying, we also want to know what you're going to do for society in the broadest sense at the same time. You've never had a tougher job, and you've never had more competition. I think that universities now, when research is carried out about what undergrads want to do, the majority of undergrads, or perhaps more undergrads than ever before, want to be entrepreneurs than at any other time in history. So competition for this type of money is pretty stiff. Fortunately, there is a lot of it about. So we want to know about you. We want to know what motivates you. We want to know, what you're good at and what you're bad at, but we also want to know about the people around you, your team. And there is no doubt that grey hair helps. Somewhere in your makeup, if you are looking for people to invest in your business, you need experience in the form of grey hair. I had grey hair at 28, so it was pretty useful for me. But that experience needs to be demonstrable. You need to show it. And if you don't have it, find someone that believes in your idea that can be part of your team, albeit in a non-executive capacity. It doesn't need to be in an executive capacity. That can share the ideals and believe in what you're doing. I think that when I think about what really annoys me, chief executives who don't understand their numbers, chief executives who, when they're asked questions about their management accounts, when they're asked questions about the simple processes that's going to get them from January through to January, who look around and say, well, that's my FD's job, or I don't know, I'll ask my accountant, gets you a pretty short meeting with me, and other people just like me. You need to understand your numbers. You need to understand how much money you have, how much money you need, and you need to understand where the risks are in income not coming in or you not getting to where you need to be. So don't think because you're a chief executive or entrepreneur, the numbers are the accountant's job. They're not. And you'd be making a terrible mistake to think that. Valuations are extremely difficult. When we began the Department of Coffee and Social Affairs, two brilliant Kiwi guys came to see me and said, look, we really want to set up an artisan coffee shop. And I said, yeah, because, London really needs another coffee shop. What? And they said, no, it's not like Starbucks, it's not like Nero's, it's not like the Costa, it's completely different. All right, I said, okay, fine. And they said, can we take you for a cup of coffee? And I said, yeah, okay, fine. And they took me to Nordic Bakery in Flat White. And I had a cup of coffee, and it was probably the first artisan cup of coffee I'd ever had in my life. I thought, oh, wow. And I understood it. I'm really a fan of coffee, but I did understand it. That business, those guys said, well, we need £150,000 to open a coffee shop on Leather Lane, where Department of Coffee started. And I said, okay, fine, what are you offering me? What's the deal? And they said, well, we'll give you 50% for £150,000. And I said, wow. You say the words, I'm going to open a coffee shop and it's worth £300,000. I've been in the wrong gig for all these years. That's brilliant. Nah. No, that's not how that's going to work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lend the company. We're going to set up a company. I'll probably rewind a little bit. We're going to set up a company. I'm going to lend you £150,000. And then when you've paid that £150,000 back, we'll be 50-50 partners. I respect your sweat equity enough to value it the same amount as our cash. So at the end, that's exactly what happened. We were 50-50 after the 150 had come back. And they were happy with that because common sense dictated to them that their idea in that instance, obviously as a retail brand, couldn't possibly be worth £300,000. Integrity is always an important thing. For me, integrity involves simply telling the truth when things aren't going well. One of the great mistakes for entrepreneurs in my 25-year experience is that they usually are very honest about things going wrong when it's too late to do anything about them, and they're in a cathartic moment just to sort of get it out there. You would do well as entrepreneurs in businesses to take the problems before they become real problems, which your instinct should be able to show you is possible, to your investors. And I certainly think you probably did that when you were sorting out your... Yeah, absolutely. So there's a case in point. And in my business career, as I said, I've cocked up an awful lot, and I've had to go and say, listen, you know, I've had a bit of a problem. We've lost that 300 million that I thought actually we wouldn't lose, and people are actually much more understanding than you think. I always found that if you owe a bank 300 million, they worry about it a lot more than you do. I mean, it's bizarre. You should just go and talk to them about it. The point's valid. You know, you're not Superman, you're not Superwoman. You know, you put yourself as an entrepreneur and you think, yeah, I can do anything. And we all tell you, yeah, you can do anything. And that's the mantra, because we want to basically make you believe that you can do anything. The truth is you can. Of course you can. But with limitations. And those limitations are that don't lose your humanity. Don't treat them differently to the way that you'd want to be treated if the roles were reversed. So if you have a problem and you think it's going to affect your plan, the performance, the promises that you made, the outcomes, you would do well to speak to your investors early. I think I'm going to have this problem. Can you help me? Investors, by and large, want you to draw on their experience. They consider their intellectual capital just as valuable as their financial capital, and lo and behold, they may not be as close to it as you, and they may not be suffering quite as much as you with the agony of trying to make a decision. So the integrity is be truthful, be straightforward, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you think you're stuck. The mistake is not asking.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for your talks. I've been taking lots of notes. They've been really helpful. Thank you. Just a general question. I'm a sole CEO of a business at the moment, and I need co-founders for my business. And I was wondering if you have any tips on how to choose a co-founder.
I mean, my advice would be look around you in your immediate vicinity and start with people that you like, you know. I actually overlooked Dan, my business partner, because I made the assumption that he wouldn't, being a mathematics, you know, student from Cambridge and a former CTO, that he wouldn't be interested in doing a food business. And so it took me 6 months to kind of circle back around and say, well, would you want to do this, you know, together with me? So, you know, and had I started there, it would have made it a lot easier. So, you know, I would just look at your immediate network, but then you say you don't see those people, so.
Thank you.
For me, it's great not just from the student point of view, but even from my own point of view, because I got the chance to meet, you know, a couple of other entrepreneurs, and the commonality that you hear across all the barriers that we're trying to overcome despite the differences in industries. I think that sends you know, a pretty strong message to people to kind of avoid these things and kind of prepare for them, and you know, better prepare themselves for success.
Fantastic evening. If I can, with my little story about Hailo, from the start to the end, can spur someone like me, being a fairly aged entrepreneur, if it can spur someone on to become an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, then I would like someone to, in the future, look back and say, it was that old boy from Hailo that spurred them on.
These events are particularly important. I think that's where it began, like, for us. I was coming to these events without having much idea, without having any idea for a startup or anything. It's just, let's go check it out, sitting there, listen to people. But when you're actually in, it's really important how they keep the flow. So they kept an early stage startup as us they have a restaurant, they have a tech company, a mobile app company, they have an investor. So give an overall view at how the startup world, the startup scene looks like. So I think it's really important.
So tonight's event was amazing. King's College London, the Innovate team, were able to bring together some really high-end entrepreneurs who are self-made, but who are also quite candid in talking about their failures and telling entrepreneurs that, you know, even if you see this amazing business, it wasn't always like this. And so for me, especially because I'm quite early stage, so I'm only 5 months in with my co-founder, that kind of story really inspires us.
I think the speakers were terrific in giving a broad view of their personal experiences, and I think every one of them was extremely relevant to young wannabe entrepreneurs or people who want to be entrepreneurial. I don't think age. I noticed in the audience there was a broader age of people, which was pretty encouraging.